This video is sponsored by Paperlike. The iPad is Apple's most confusing range of products they have on offer today. There is literally 6 different versions. We've got the iPad Mini, the iPad 9th and 10th generation, iPad Air, and the 11 and 12.9-inch iPad Pros. And each of those has their own nuances, but all of them have support for either the Gen 1 or Gen 2 Apple Pencils. They all have center stage with their front-facing cameras, as well as their own range of cases and keyboards and accessories. They all run the same apps, like even the cheapest iPad runs the same apps as the most expensive iPad. And interestingly, they all have exactly the same battery life across the board, 10 hours on Wi-Fi and 9 hours when using mobile data. But if you are considering buying one now is a pretty great time because there is so much variety on offer. So this should help you decide if you're about to buy one, but still trying to figure out which one's which. So to start off with some upfront information here, you should buy the iPad Mini or either of the 2 basic iPads if you mostly use your iPad to just consume content, like watch videos, play a few games, browse the web and send a few emails, that sort of thing. Now these devices are great, and generally speaking, which one of these you buy will depend on whether you want a small one, a big one with a button on, or a big one without a button. Now if you are someone buying one for more than an occasional use, then maybe you're a student or you do like to dabble with a video or with photo editing or video editing perhaps, then the iPad Air is a very good option for you. And if you're a seasoned pro who really needs like the vast amount of power that's available to you, then either the 12.9-inch or the 11-inch iPad Pro will be for you. But saying that, and when you factor in the prices, don't forget you can also pick up some other pretty amazing tablets. The Samsung S8 range can be great, for example, as well as a full Windows Surface device, which gives you both a tablet and a full laptop in one at a fairly similar price when you add on the keyboard and accessories. A quick thank you to Paperlike, who sent out their new Paperlike 2 for me to try and is kindly sponsoring this video. And regardless of which iPad you get, if you plan to use your iPads to take notes or draw or anything with either of the Apple Pencils, then for me, honestly, their Paperlike 2 is an absolute must-have. Now, I currently have the Paperlike 1 on my 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and compared to the Paperlike 2 on the 10.9-inch iPad, to my eyes, it is a night and day difference. It makes the screen feel paper-like, but doesn't affect the image quality of the screen like the first generation did. And if you do use my link down below to buy one for yours, it really means a lot to me. So thank you so much. You're helping support the channel and helping me to continue to make more videos like this one. Now, something to point out here, I feel, is that you probably don't need an iPad. You generally need a laptop and a phone. An iPad is one of those optional extras, unless you're trying to ditch the laptop and just switch to an iPad. But by the time you add on cases and pens and other accessories, you would actually be better off most of the time picking up what I recommend to most people, a MacBook Air instead, and have something that is more versatile and less restrictive than an iPad. Because I just still finding myself wanting to use an iPad, but having to then reach for my laptop for certain tasks. So let's start off with the cheapest iPad first, the iPad 9th generation. Now this is the only iPad that has the dated large bezels around the screen and still features a lightning connector and a home button at the bottom, but still supports all of the same gestures that every current generation iPad uses. Now the main difference here with the 9th gen iPad are that it's using an older A15 chip with support for 4G, not 5G, has one of the lowest quality cameras for both photo and video, and has stereo speakers only coming out of one side of the iPad. Now it does support the first generation Apple Pencil, which works okay, but you do have to worry about losing the cap on the end, and there's no handy wireless and magnetic charging like with the Gen 2 Pencil. They're also great for kids. My 7 and 4-year-old use this just fine, and since loads of their homework is based on apps like Busy Things, it also is kind of essential for us to have a basic iPads just for the kids to use. But overall, this is honestly an affordable and a great option for those of you wanting like 90% of the iPad experience without paying any extra. So why would you pay the additional £130 to upgrade to Apple's most recent edition, actually, the 10th generation iPad? Well, aside from the new colors, of course, you also get to ditch the bezels and the home button to give you a slightly larger screen, 10.9 inches up from 10.2 on the 9th generation version, and Touch ID moves from the now missing home button down the bottom as part of the power button up the top here. The display also gets an upgrade to Liquid Retina, which does look much better, and there's also a bump to the newer A14 processor. Now, if you're a student or consuming more content, this is probably the one for you. There is true stereo speakers on each side of the iPads. You get 4K video, a better 12 megapixel rear-facing camera, which takes much better photos than the 9th generation version. And this is the only iPad where the front-facing camera has also been moved to the center in landscape mode, which is currently the only iPad that has this feature, which is pretty essential if you're FaceTiming somebody and even just using Face ID to unlock it because you don't accidentally have your finger over the side. Now, Lightning is also gone for USB-C, thank you very much, and thankfully every iPad here on in is USB-C. But in a strange choice by Apple, still supports only the first generation Apple Pencil, which, if you recall, has a lightning connection. So if you do go down this route, you'll have to buy an adapter to connect your lightning pencil to the lightning adapter to the USB-C connection to then find a USB-C cable to then plug from and then into the adapter, into the iPad. I mean, come on, Apple. But overall, this is the iPad that I would recommend to most people. Because next up we have the now £70, more expensive, but smaller and older, but faster iPad mini. See what I mean about confusing lineups? Now the iPad mini is a more compact but still very powerful iPad. With the A15 chip in it now, it is faster than both of the regular iPads, but it is missing things like the landscape front-facing camera. Instead, it's back at the top in portrait mode. And this is the first iPad that does support the latest generation Apple Pencil 2, which pairs wirelessly and charges magnetically and all the good stuff. Now, why they didn't do this or couldn't figure out how to do it on the 10th generation iPad, I don't honestly know, but for now, this iPad for me is probably one of the most convenient of all of them. Now, the 8.3-inch screen and overall size means it's so light and easy to slip into a bag or even a pocket, and it's great for note-taking, reading a book with a Kindle. The screen's bright enough and dim enough to read in like all lighting situations, and the chip inside means that it's just so good for some, playing games, light productivity, and doing pretty much almost anything you can throw at it. It can also make for a very cool, but still very expensive, wall-mounted tablet for your home, if you kind of want that home to look all futuristic with, an iPad on the wall to control all the smart tech in your home. So from here on in, I would say that these next iPads are really only needed if you're somewhat of a professional. And by that, I mean that you know that you need the better features or the specs which are on offer, or maybe you're creating video content, editing videos, photos, publishing articles, something that just requires a little more grunt. Now, starting with the 5th generation iPad Air. Now, this has the same screen size as the second cheapest iPad with the same Liquid Retina display, but the main change in this one is that now we have Apple's desktop level performance in an iPad, this time with the M1 processor. And I've already talked about the M1 a lot on this channel already. It is an absolute powerhouse of a processor that's super efficient on battery consumption as well. Now, if you're not too fussed about the cameras or some improvements in screen tech, which we'll get to in a moment, then this one is for you. Now, the M1 will be super capable at video editing for most people, touching up photos, and of course all the content consumption that you can throw in this. The screen also has an anti-reflective coating on it, so it'll be better to use as a more kind of laptop form factor if you pair it with a keyboard. So for the professional, let's call them, this one is for you. And then we have the iPad Pro range, both the 11 and the 12.9-inch screens. And these are absolutely identical other than the size of them. So you just need to choose the form factor that works for you. And I would say that these are for those of you who either know that they need an iPad Pro for whatever you need to do with it, or just those with honestly some extra money and just want the best of what's available. You get Apple's latest and greatest fastest ever M2 chip, which is honestly faster than most people's own laptops they own right now, and even desktop computers. The cameras also get a significant bump in quality with the new True Depth system on the back, plus an introduction of a second camera on the back. And for the first time, we get ProRes video, though I've not actually seen anyone use an iPad to shoot ProRes video. We also see the first change with the USB-C connector, now supporting Thunderbolt and USB 4, which basically means you'll have much faster transfer speeds for moving footage, like on or off the iPad, probably for those huge ProRes video files you'll be shooting. And for both of these models, you'll also get the best of a 4-speaker audio system with 5 microphones all around for really good content consumption and FaceTime calls. Though I'd argue most people I know just throw on a pair of headphones anyway. Just don't forget, at this level, an iPad Pro plus a keyboard plus a pencil plus all the cases and all the other kind of accessories that you need will likely set you back far more than a similarly spec'd out and arguably more useful MacBook Air or even some Apple refurbished MacBook Pros. Don't forget to grab yourselves a paper-like screen protector for whichever iPad you choose to go ahead with, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, bye-bye.